Time now for Back Pages tonight here on Sky Sports News, bringing you a first look at the sports stories in the morning's newspapers. And joining us tonight are Jonathan Liew, sports writer at The Guardian, and the Scottish Sun sports editor Roger Hannah. Evening to you both. Let's quickly run everyone through the back pages then, starting with the Scottish Metro. Scotland are ready to kick off Euro 2024, of course, and they want to make history in Germany by making it out of their group. The Scottish Metro leads with the march to Munich as we prepare for the opening game. Roger's paper carries Andy Robertson's rallying cry to his teammates, imploring them to give themselves a legendary status at this tournament. In front of the Metro, English edition leads with "It's in their hands" as they depict Harry Kane and his teammates. England still a few days away from facing Serbia, of course. Speaking of Serbia, they're on the back page of the Mail questioning England's greatness, and the Mail is one of several papers to report that England players are wearing £500 Aura rings to help monitor their health and their sleep. Could be one of those. The Guardian's back page asked if this wonderful summer of football will help unite the fractured game of football. And there's a piece from Jonathan on what he calls the cautious mood in Germany. We'll look at those stories in detail. Okay, welcome along to all. Roger, I want to start with you because the fervour in Scotland as Scotland are about to kick off in Germany looks like it's terrific. The Metro says the march to Munich. I mean, you've got fans walking 1,000 miles. It's putting the Proclaimers to shame because they only did 500. How excited is the nation for this tournament?
Yeah, listen, Steve Clarke at his first press conference, David, said he didn't want any negative Normans going into this tournament, and he won't be disappointed because the fans, even us old guys in the media, I can never remember such positivity going into a major tournament. It's a difficult game. It's the ultimate tough game. The hosts in Munich on the first night with everything that brings for the German team, but we feel that we've got a chance, and certainly, as Andy Robertson says in the back of our paper tomorrow, they can be legends. It's the Swiss, it's the Hungarians after the Germans. They could be the first Scotland team ever to get past the group stage at a major tournament.
Yeah, I mean, we're wishing, obviously, them all the best. Jonathan, how do you see kind of Scotland's fate? Let's be legends. I mean, there's always this kind of rallying cry from all nations ahead of a tournament. But given how good Scotland were in qualifying, you know, it's not beyond the realms that they could do well in this tournament.
No, and I think that in terms of wanting to spring a shock, opening night is probably their best opportunity to do it. Yeah, I mean, you can tell that the tension in Munich is going to be so thick. You know, the hosts just want to get off to a good start. I think the fans are going to get nervy if Scotland can keep Germany quiet for half an hour. I mean, it's going to be really crucial, the battle in midfield, because Germany are probably going to go 3-on-5 against the Scotland back five, and that dominating the ball in that midfield and not letting Scotland get it and pinning them back into their own territory is going to be crucial. But if Scotland can actually thwart them for a while and silence the crowd a little bit, I think that their chances of springing a shock will increase with every sort of 5-10 minutes that goes by. You know, we've seen host countries in the opening games of tournaments get incredibly nervy on opening night, and if Scotland are going to spring a shock, I really think this is their best chance of doing it.
Yeah, I mean, Germany have been in quite good touch in friendlies. They've beaten France, they've beaten the Netherlands. They weren't very good before Christmas, but they tend to peak towards tournaments, Roger. Conversely, Scotland were brilliant in qualifying, but more recent friendlies haven't been as good. Do you kind of ignore recent form and hark back to those qualifying days as to where the real Scotland is at?
Yeah, I think we have to, David. I mean, Scotland have a bizarre contrast between friendly results and competitive results. We haven't won a home friendly in 8 years, and yet it was 15 points out of 15 at the start of qualifying. Spain were beaten at Hampden. We won in Norway against Haaland and Odegaard and all those superstars. So Steve Clarke does seem to get the best out of his players when he needs to. And Jonathan's right. The midfield battle in the Munich football arena tomorrow will be vital. But I think Scotland can hold their heads high because it will be a midfield of Scott McTominay, an FA Cup winner, John McGinn, who's heading into the Champions League, Billy Gilmour, who's excelled at Brighton again this season, and Callum McGregor, who has just won a double up here with Celtic.
Yeah, I'm going to come to both of you on this, but Roger, I'm going to start with you, being Scottish, of course. Looking at the front of the Telegraph, the Tartan Army march on Munich. Bavaria turns blue for Euros opener. A real sense that Scotland are kind of marching on the Munich. Just how big a factor is the Tartan Army going to be?
Yeah, they will be big. The vast majority, David, have travelled, of course, without tickets. They will be hugely outnumbered in Munich tomorrow night by home supporters, but they have travelled in their tens of thousands. If you know, Steve Clarke took Scotland to the last Euros. It was our first major final since Craig Brown at France '98, and it wasn't quite the same. It was the COVID times. The 2 games at Hampden with only 12,500 in, 1 game at Wembley, if you remember. I think it was only 25,000 or so in Wembley for that game. This is the first pilgrimage the Tartan Army have been allowed to go on for 26 years, and they didn't want to miss out. They will be huge backing for Scotland in all 3 games.
Yeah, Jonathan, your thoughts on the Tartan Army? I mean, we've seen the pictures of the kilts and the bagpipes. I mean, fingers crossed it all remains kind of friendly and upbeat. But do you think there'll be a factor?
Oh, no, generally, I mean, the Scots are great tourists, you know, whether it's away games in Europe for their club teams or when the Tartan Army go, they are generally welcome. I think we've all seen the videos. I think, you know, we probably all saw the one about the bagpiper falling off the table and people outside the Alguacil Dome, you know, singing songs. This is part of what, you know, it's the eve of a tournament, and with all the greatest of respect to Russia and to Qatar and to COVID-19, this is the first normal tournament we've had in a while, and this is just one of the things that makes it. The fans from all over the continent like gathering in the same place, celebrating football. You know, obviously the rivalry is there, obviously the competitiveness is there, but essentially it is kind of like a party. It's a celebration of football, and Scotland's returning to international competition properly. I think, you know, that the fans actually travelling for the first time in a generation. It's just one of the things that I think is just, you know, I'm so excited about this tournament, and this is just one of the reasons why. Yeah,
we can't wait. Let's focus on England then. Jonathan, start with you on this one, because I guess while Scotland making it out of the group is a kind of success because they haven't done that before, for England the pressure is different. In the Metro, it says it's in their hands. They've gone so close last time around. What do you make of their chances?
I think 6 months ago you'd have a very different answer. They've not actually been on a great run of form since qualification, and I wonder if that can actually help as well as hinder them. It's maybe dampened a little bit of the expectation. It's maybe dampened a little bit of the jingoism that you get around England at tournaments. And if you cast your mind back 18 months when England were on that horrible run of form in the summer of 2022, I think we can agree that they hit the tournament. Once the tournament started in Qatar, they actually hit the ground running and gave a pretty good account of themselves. I think that's what England will be looking for here. They'll be looking to build into it. They won't be looking to put in, you know, statement era-defining performances in the first couple of games. They will want to qualify, they will want to do it well, they want to win the group, but they'll want to peak for the later stages in the tournament. Obviously, the draw pits them potentially against France in the semi-finals. That will be a huge opportunity for them to get revenge for what happened in Qatar. But if they can build that momentum round by round, I don't see any reason why they can't trouble, you know, the final in Berlin or possibly the last 4.
OK, let's look at a couple more pages then, starting with the Times. The front of the Times says, Kane warning to England, Serbia can hurt us on Sunday. And then the back of the Mail, Roger, interesting story this, the £500 ring that's England's secret weapon. Tell us about this story. What are England's kind of, what's all this about the ring and them giving it a bit of a secret advantage?
Yeah, these are these Aura rings. I was actually hoping to get one myself, David, to see if it improved my performance during the Euros. I don't know whether these things work or not, but it's like anything else. If you tell the players that this is good for them and it's going to improve their aura and improve their performance and maybe just take England that extra step at the tournament, if the players buy into it, then I'm quite sure Gareth Southgate's quite happy to go along with it all.
OK, Jonathan, I mean, a magic ring, it is a kind of 1% thing, isn't it? It's measuring your sleep and your heart rate. I mean, I'm not sure it's the first bit of technology that's done this. I think we've had things that have done it before. Is this all a bit gimmicky?
It's basically a watch. It's basically one of those fit watches that doesn't, but the one that doesn't tell the time, right? Because I have one, these watches that it measures your sleep, and you get up and it tells you you've slept 6 hours or whatever, or 4 hours, or if it's been a particularly rough night, or it tells you what your heart rate is. This is fairly simple consumer tech, for a lot of people. And if this is what the secret weapon, this is one of those stories that comes out in the preamble to a tournament when lots of people are actually waiting for the thing to start and don't have a lot to write about.
OK, we're going to move to The Guardian. Your paper, Jonathan. We'll get to your story in just a minute, but shelter from the storm, undeniable beauty of football's summer show can briefly reunite a fractured Europe. How important, Roger, is this tournament for the kind of bigger picture for the continent of Europe?
Yeah, I think it's hugely important. It's a very well-written piece. Jonathan touched on some of the last major tournaments, both Euros and World Cups, haven't really been what we were used to in major tournaments. One was in Qatar, one was in Russia, difficult access for fans. There was the COVID at the last Euros as well. First of all, the tournament was delayed, then they were playing to smaller attendances, travel restrictions. This now is in a nation, Jonathan's there just now, accessible to all. Just like Jonathan, I'm looking forward to the football, because I think the tournament's wide open. You could make a case for half a dozen potential winners, maybe even more, in this tournament. So it genuinely does have the potential to do what sport's best at, which is unite people and bring everyone together to enjoy a summer of great sport. And it is a difficult time politically on the continent. Try and bring, let football unite some different factions.
OK, Jonathan, your piece on page 50 of The Guardian. Let's give it a plug then. The cautious mood in Germany. Tell us about this.
Yeah, I'm in Berlin, and reading the newspapers this morning, consuming TV and radio in Germany. Football is all over the back pages. It's all over the front page of the website, but it's not the Euros. It's Edin Terzic, who is kind of surprisingly left Borussia Dortmund today, and that is the story that is dominating. And then there's the usual Bundesliga transfer stuff. There's some row over the Bayern Munich doctor. I think we underestimate the fact that the extent to which German fans are still kind of not sold on this national team. They've been burnt in the last, 3 tournaments now, first round exits, or last 16 at the last Euros, and they've gone through a pretty indifferent run of form. They've burned through Hansi Flick. This team has disappointed them quite a lot, and what I'm sensing is a kind of caution. They are excited about the tournament. They're excited about hosting Europe. They're excited about kind of showing their country off to Europe as you might expect. But in terms of the team itself, I do sense that caution that this is the kind of thing we might see tomorrow night if things don't go well for Germany. That a lot of fans are much more wedded to their Bundesliga clubs, to their local clubs, than they are to the national team. That disconnect has been there for quite some years now, and I think in order to win them over, this German team under Julian Nagelsmann is going to have to show them something, to give them something to believe in, almost, because I think there is still that certain apathy there.
OK, interesting stuff. Jonathan, Roger, for now, thank you. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll look at more of the back pages, including this in the Times, where the battle to take control of Everton continues to make the headlines. More on that shortly. You're watching Back Pages tonight, and welcome back to Jonathan Liew, sports writer at The Guardian, and the Scottish Sun's sports editor, Roger Hannah. Gentlemen, we're going to focus on The Guardian. Transfers, of course, window opens very shortly indeed. June 30th, also quite a significant date. Roger, let's start with The Guardian, Jonathan's paper. Chelsea move ahead in race to sign Elise from Palace. Michael Elise, really impressive, particularly back end of the season under Oliver Glasner. What do you make of this?
Yeah, I think as soon as it became apparent that Michael Olise had this £60 million release clause in his deal, clubs were going to look at him, David, in this window. Chelsea, yes, they've got Madueke finished the season well, Raheem Sterling's there. But when you look at the way Olise finished the season under Oliver Glasner at Palace, it sounds ridiculous to say he could be a snip at £60 million, but the potential is there for everyone to see. And I think Chelsea will want to get in quickly. Newcastle have been linked as well, albeit they may have to sell this summer. Not that long ago, Manchester United were linked with him, probably after the way he performed against United in that big win at Selhurst Park at the end of the season. But is a young man I would think would be sold on by Palace somewhere this summer.
Yeah, Jonathan, Roger's point about clubs having to sell, Newcastle being one of them. I mean, what do you think this transfer window is going to look like? Is there a danger that it's going to be kind of quiet again because clubs are worried about PSR rules? Or are we going to see kind of approaching June 30th some kind of frantic sales and clubs trying to drive down prices?
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing. There are so many moving parts. I mean, even this Olise deal, it kind of depends on what other exits Crystal Palace are likely to countenance. So obviously PSR rules are a factor. The fact that there are clubs out there who clearly need to sell before the end of the month, and it could end up being one of those windows. So January was an example of this, where it needed a big deal to kind of move everything else along, because there are so many interconnected pieces that it needed that kind of liquidity in the market. It needed one big deal to almost have a knock-on effect and create a load of other big deals. And if we don't get that, I think by the end of the month, it could end up being one of those windows that doesn't really take flight until the last few days, where everyone's sort of waiting things out and sort of feeling things out and trying to see what moves other clubs make before making their own.
Okay, well, on the in the Times on their website, one club, Roger, that does need to sell, given the fact they were dock points last year under PSR rules, at Everton. And it says here, Manchester United agree terms with Jarrad Branthwaite, as Everton demand £70 million. I mean, he's a very promising up-and-coming footballer. Branthwaite just missed out on that Euro squad, of course. But 70 million seems like a lot of money, but Everton need it.
Yeah, Everton do need it. I'm not sure Manchester United would go to £70 million. There's been talk of Eric Ten Hag only having a kitty of £50 million in this window. I think this could rumble on. It would not surprise me if Jarrad Branthwaite, who probably considers himself slightly unlucky not to be in that England squad at the Euros this summer, wouldn't surprise me if come the end of August, and I know that sounds a long way away, David, that he's a player at Old Trafford.
OK, let's stick with Everton then. The back of the Times, UK-based cash bid to buy Everton on the right-hand side there under a picture of Adil Rashid. We'll get to the cricket, I'm sure, in a bit. But Everton owner Farhad Moshiri has received a fresh bid to buy the club from a UK-based investor. Jonathan, a couple of billionaires. I mean, there's good news, I guess, for Everton fans.
Well, I mean, on the face of it, it sounds promising. I mean, I have to admit, I'd not heard of this investment group before I read the story. And I think for Everton fans who've been watching this saga drag on for months, if not years, I think what's needed is a little bit of openness, a little bit of transparency. Who are these guys? Where is the money coming from? And how quickly can this deal get done? Are they serious? It must have been so excruciating, I think, if you are a fan of Everton, to have to follow the story through little tidbits of gossip and little half fragments of knowledge that are picked up in the media, rumours and gossip. So I really think if this bid is serious, then I think they need to be frank with Everton fans and make it really clear where they stand and what they want from this club.
Roger, have you heard of this before reading this story? The private finance, was it Vichy Private Finance? And how?
No, I was actually just reading it a few minutes ago, David. I hadn't heard of them at all. And as Jonathan says, the people you do feel sorry for are the Everton supporters. Everton Football Club's an institution in English football, a terrific history. They should have a terrific future. When you look at the stadium at Bramley Moor Dock that they're planning to go into in a year or so's time, it's just the present that they must worry about. What happens after Moshiri goes, when Moshiri goes, and the worry that to keep things going, there's lots of moving parts. One of the moving parts could be Jarrad Branthwaite going, and that money being used not for replacements in Sean Dyche's team, but just to tide things over until all these financial problems can be solved.
OK, let's have a little move on to the cricket then, as promised, because England, Jonathan, blast back to keep World Cup chances alive. Never in doubt, was it, that Josh Buttler's men were going to get back on track?
No, kind of embarrassing for Oman, really, that England knocking off like 50 in 19 balls, something like that, and have done their net run rate a huge favour after the no result against Scotland and losing to Australia. So I think they now need to beat Namibia. I think they simply need Namibia to win, and for Scotland and Australia not to contrive a Scotland win in their final group game. Not to say that Scotland couldn't beat Australia on merit. Of course, I wouldn't want to cast aspersions on that. But these are England's two oldest sporting enemies. So who knows what they can cook up.
Yeah, I mean, no one's going to suggest a contrivance or cooking up. I think that would be frowned upon by ICC and MCC. But I'll pick up, Roger, on Jonathan's point. As an England player and an England fan, the two countries you don't want your fate in the hands of, the two nations, would probably be Scotland and Australia. As a Scot, how exciting the prospect of beating Australia and knocking England out of a cricket competition.
What a weekend this is going to be, David, for Scottish sport. Munich on Friday night, St Lucia overnight, Saturday into Sunday. And just look at the way that Scotland beat Oman the other night. You know, if Brandon McMullen and George Munsey are going to have a strike rate of 200 each, where better to do it than the Sir Vivian Richards Stadium in Antigua? We move on to St Lucia with hope in our hearts. I don't know how many of the Tartan Army have gone to the Caribbean. Most seem to be in Bavaria, but I'm sure after our win against Germany tomorrow night, they will all be tuning into the Aussie game late on Saturday night.
Roger, can I just say, fantastic debut on Back Pages tonight, and I particularly enjoyed that last answer. Big thank you to you, and of course to Jonathan as well. Thank you, gentlemen. Now, if you missed any of the show, there's another chance to see Back Pages tonight at hour, and the show is also available as a podcast. Just download Back Pages on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. And join us again on Friday night when our guests will be the Daily Mail's Heather Dewar and Martin Hardy from The Times.